session cymru meddwl.
Mr. Speaker, the Chancellor claimed that her budget was a once-in-a-parliament reset. So why are we having an emergency budget next week?
Mr. Speaker, we have delivered record investment into this country, had 3 interest rates cut in a row, and wages are going up faster than prices, which is a massive cost of living boost. That's after only 8 months, after 14 years of absolute failure. What do they do? Interest rates 11%. Massive 22 million black hole in the economy. They crashed the economy. We're rebuilding Britain.
A real political storm has erupted in the UK. Keir Starmer, the leader of the Labour Party, is in the midst of a scandal that threatens his career. Pressure is mounting on him and hidden divisions within the party are coming to light. Since taking office, Starmer has built his reputation as a decisive and reliable leader, ready to put the party back on the right track. But now his ambitions collide with powerful forces that threaten to destroy everything he has built. At first seemingly petty rumors of corruption soon turned to real evidence, revealing Starmer's involvement in financial fraud and political manipulation. These allegations threaten not only his personal career but also the stability of Labour as a whole. The revelations become the centerpiece of media debate, leading to political turbulence in which the party loses its cohesion and begins to splinter. Labour, which had previously prided itself on its cohesion, finds itself in an environment that calls into question both the future of its leader and the entire party.
The first priority of this government, of any government.
First rumors of corruption in the Labour Party, there was a political explosion. One of the most devastating events was the disclosure of documents that showed a lot of financial manipulation involving Keir Starmer. Finding himself at the center of a scandal, he could no longer ignore the truth. In a desperate attempt to save face, Starmer tried to minimize the fallout, but the revelations continued to gain momentum. Funds meant to support local campaigns and voters were allegedly used for personal political purposes, in stark contrast to Labour's policy promises of honesty and transparency. This was not just disappointing to the party's supporters, it was a real betrayal of their trust. Allegations soon emerged that Starmer had suppressed any attempt at dissent in his party, retaliating against those who dared to criticize him. These revelations shook the political climate in Britain, causing not only his opponents but also his closest associates to wonder how much influence he could have had in the disaster that consumed the entire party.
Mr. Speaker, he knows why we're having an emergency budget, because since the last one, since the Chancellor delivered her budget in October, growth is down, borrowing is up, and she has destroyed business confidence. Does the Prime Minister now regret raising taxes on business?
Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the OBR will present their numbers. There'll be a spring statement next week. But, Mr. Speaker, she still hasn't. We've got record investment into this country. Interest rates have been cut, and she talks about national insurance. We had to fill the 22 billion black hole that they left. We've invested in the NHS, in schools and public services. We're pressing on with planning, with infrastructure and regulation. But I understand the Leader of the Opposition is straight talking, so perhaps she can help us with this. Is she going to reverse the next increase?
Since the revelations became public, the UK political landscape has changed dramatically. The Labour Party, which had previously prided itself on its cohesion, was on the brink of collapse. Starmer, weakened by allegations of corruption and internal strife, faced pressure not only from political opponents, but also from his associates. Serious divisions began to emerge within Labour's ranks. Some openly called for his resignation, while others tried to maintain a semblance of loyalty in an effort to save the party's face. Meanwhile, a flurry of outrage erupted on social media. The hashtag Starmer RESIGNED went viral, and the public demanded immediate action. The Conservative Party was happy to use this political crisis to accuse Labour of hypocrisy and incompetence. For Starmer, it became not just a political crisis but a struggle for survival. His every word and action was harshly criticized, and support within the party began to fade rapidly. Despite his best efforts, Starmer was unable to hold on to support that had previously seemed unshakable. With each new exposure, his allies began to withdraw, one by one. A real storm began to brew in the Labour Party. Many who had once had no doubts about his leadership were now openly distancing themselves, fearing for their political careers. At the same time, talk began about possible candidates to replace him. Future leaders were being discussed on the sidelines, and the party, despite declarations of support, was preparing for a change of power. This was not just a political retreat. Starmer faced a new threat: financial support. In the face of the crisis, donors who had previously generously funded Labour were now beginning to reconsider their plans. Without these funds, the prospects for success in future elections became increasingly uncertain. Each new scandal only deepened the crisis, and Starmer realized that not only his leadership but also the future of the party was in jeopardy.
If not, what's the point? If so, what other taxes is she raising to fill the hole? One way or the other.
You're in government. Speaker, the only black hole is the one that he is digging. He's shown absolutely no regret, but everybody knows the Chancellor has made a mistake. That is why they're having an emergency budget. Later today, Conservatives will vote to exempt hospices, pharmacies and care providers from her national insurance rise.
Starmer, realizing that his situation is critical, decides to make one last attempt to save his career. He holds a press conference hoping to turn the tide and portray himself as a victim of political attacks. However, his attempt to take control of events only makes matters worse. His words, full of confidence, were met with increasing skepticism. Journalists immediately began to question his revelations, turning each statement into a new accusation. Starmer tried to convince both the public and his fellow party members that the allegations were merely the result of political attacks. But his arguments were unconvincing, and the actions of his opponents became increasingly coordinated. Within the party, too, the debate continued to rage, with many already openly questioning his ability to remain in office. Some were calling for immediate action, deciding who could replace him in office, while others were preparing for an open power struggle. With each passing day, his chance of recovery grew slimmer.
Will he, at the very least, support exempting these vulnerable services from his jobs tax?
Prime Minister.
I noticed she didn't say they're going to reverse the national insurance rises. It's exactly what she wants, all the benefits.
At the height of the political crisis, when it seemed that his leadership had no future, Starmer decided to take the decisive step of resigning. His departure from office became inevitable when the divisions within the Labour Party reached a climax and support from key allies disappeared. Realizing that his reputation was ruined and that attempts to salvage the situation were futile, Starmer chose to leave office to prevent further splits in the party. His resignation was a gesture of humility, but also an attempt to retain something of his political clout in the face of a disastrous reputation. Preparations for a leadership contest began immediately, and Labour found itself at a crossroads. Within the party, key figures began to play their own games to gain favourable positions. At this time, the Conservative Party was eagerly waiting for the moment to use Labour's crisis to increase its power. The political future of the Labour Party now depended on those who were willing to seize the moment and usher in a new era.